So, hello and welcome. And today I wanted to try to answer a very simple question, at least from my own perspective, of why meditate? Why sit down and dedicate time of the day to sitting still and seemingly not doing much of anything? And for me, when I was reflecting on this, it is probably the most worthwhile thing that I've picked up in my life. And the main reason for that is because it actually impacts every aspect of my life, from how I relate to my own mind, to my emotions, to others in my life, and to my work. And so, I was thinking about this. I'm doing this, a little bit over an hour a day these days. Have been sat probably 6 months of silent meditation retreats. And after, this has been about 5 years of dedicated practice. What keeps me going and what are the potentials of it? And there's two levels that I want to address, and they're both valuable. And so one is the surface level, and one is a more deeper level that can happen over time. So on the surface level, mindfulness has been shown, and there's lots of research studies to back this up now, to really help with mental health in general, a sense of calm and collectedness, great benefits with things like anxiety and depression. When I first started to come to a meditation practice 5 years ago, I was in early recovery from addiction, and I had a lot of anxiety about everything because I was having to do everything in a different way for the first time. Social events, things like that often felt overwhelming. And I noticed that what I remember clearly was a really often an elevated heart rate coming into things like that, a sense of just unease. And I was just at the doctor's a couple weeks ago, and they were just doing my regular vitals and taking my vitals, and they told me that my resting heart rate was very, very low, but in a healthy way, in the low 60s or something like that. And it made me realize, wow, that was not the case when I started doing this 5 years ago. So it can certainly be beneficial for those things, for having some clarity through anxiety, being able to see depression in a different way as a more transitory thing. But what I really want to talk about today is also the more deeper level of practice. And the main way I want to talk about it is that mindfulness and meditation in general can lead to meaning and lead to a meaningful life. I think this is something that's really important to talk about, because the common trajectory that I have seen and had been encouraged to do in my life is the normal life of getting things done, getting to the next thing, right? It's school. You're in school to get that done, and then you go on to college, and then when you're doing that, or if you do that, or you could just get a job, or maybe it's the family track, and then you're doing that to have kids, and then maybe be a grandparent, and then it's like there's always this sense of moving somewhere, right, on to the next thing. And of course that's all certainly valuable and has its place in a meaningful life. But I think if life is only about getting to the next thing, where is the beauty, the wonder, the real joy of it in between? And I think in some moments we can get a glimpse of this, in nature or something like that, taking a look at a beautiful mountain scene, right? You hike, you get to the top or whatever, or the water, and you just get this view, and for a second, it's like your mind stops and the usual busyness of it steps away, and there's just this moment of like, wow, it's just beautiful to be alive. And this potential of the mind can be intentionally cultivated in a meditation practice. maybe not a constant sense of awe and wonder all the time, but I think the real joy and simplicity of being alive can be uncovered through meditation practice. So, in early Buddhist meditation, there are said to be 5 hindrances, things which cloud the mind, which prevent us from this clarity, this mental clarity, this openness and freedom of mind. And there are 7 factors which lead to an awakening and an unfolding. And this is the deeper level of what meditation can offer. Is that actually it's a radically different way of being in the world, one which is not caught in the usual frames of reference or using those as a mode of being, and instead cultivating some very powerful, subtle, and onward leading practices. So these 5 things that hinder or cloud the mind are often called the 5 hindrances. And I'm just going to walk through these a little bit. So the first 2 are greed, craving things, and aversion, ill will, not wanting things. I think these are very common, probably the most common, These are main forces in life, craving the next thing, to be somebody, to have material objects, whatever it is. And then the not wanting, this is also very common. The everyday experience of shitty things happening, that we don't necessarily have control of, and that extra layer that comes on top of them. So one way of looking at these 2 hindrances is that they're temporary, right? If my mind is continually fixated on a sense of getting, of craving something, or pushing something away, there's no real contentment in it. There's no real balance underneath that. But if I can focus on the sense of their temporariness, of like, oh, this is just a passing wave right now, the mind can immediately release from some of its fixation about having to get the thing or needing to get rid of the thing. So these are common tools in meditation for just reflecting on how these things come and go. And then the next one of these hindrances is restlessness and worry. And I think this really relates to anxiety, which is so common and prevalent. Trying to get all of the conditions in life just right? The mind's always a couple steps ahead about what's going to happen, what may have just happened, in this perpetual state of wondering. And one way of working with this is to just try to drop the goal orientation for a minute, Like, it's okay to just be here, And I think this is especially important in intentional meditation, to just say, whatever my mind state is right now, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be different. I can sit with this. And then the other side of this restlessness and anxiety, there's something which is often called sloth or torpor, the opposite of anxiety. It's almost just an exhausted feeling of mind, an incapacity to see clearly. And so sometimes what can be helpful for this is to, if on the meditation cushion, to open the eyes. It can help the mind wake up a little bit. To even take a few deep breaths to just wake up the system. And sometimes it's true that you might just need a little sleep, a nap. And then the last one of these hindrances is doubt. And so this is the doubting the value of even sitting down and meditating. This is often this is a familiar mindset to me anyways. This isn't even worth it. And it can be worthwhile to just say, let me set that aside for a while and take this practice on sincerely and see what the effects can be over time. Because otherwise it can just continually circle in meditation. So, the good news is the awakening factors which can unfold. And there's 7 of them. And mindfulness being kind of the key one. So we've almost, in this, what we were just doing in discussing the hindrances, begun this process of investigation. So with mindfulness, with being aware of whatever mind state is present, can begin to notice, okay, this is ill will that's present in the mind right now. I don't want something that's happening in my life. Reflecting on the impermanence of it. So this is the investigative quality. Is it true? Does everything suck? You know? And through that investigation, in whatever way, the hindrances can begin to move through the system, can begin to subside. And with time and practice, there's an energy that goes into this as well. This is another awakening factor. This ability to stick with it, even when the mind is cloudy, even when the mind is deluded, just to continually come back to the cushion. And this energy can lead to a sense of joy over time. As these hindrances begin to subside, as they begin to fall away, there's a real joy of the release from them. And so this can be a feeling of excitement, and over time, as that begins to settle into the body, moves into the next awakening factor, which is tranquility. The body begins to calm. The mind begins to calm because it's not caught in the perpetual state of the self, you know, the desires, the who I should be, who they are, what's wrong in this moment. And through this tranquility, the mind becomes concentrated. It becomes focused. And in that focus, there develops a quality of equanimity and balance where, despite the tumultuous patterns of the mind, there can be a steadiness, not being rocked off center by the ups and downs of life. And so this was a lot that I just presented, but I wanted to lay out some of these deeper potentials of what meditation, the meditation path, can hold over time. And this equanimity, through not being rocked, through not being caught in the usual hindrances to the mind, can lead to a sense of dispassion from them. Over time, through continually seeing these, whether it's the restlessness and the continual anxieties coming up, through seeing them and not getting caught in them, there becomes to be this disillusion or dispassion of like, I'm just not going to go into that over and over again, you know? The mind and the heart begins to settle and say, yeah, these things can come and pass through, but I don't need to get caught in them all the time. And through that, these patterns begin to release. They weaken, and they become less a part of the normal mindset, and the equanimity and balance and release from them and the openness of that becomes the general reference point for the mind. Oh, this is healthy. This is the way, you know, this is the way I can be in this world. So this is the deeper level of what's possible, and ultimately in early Buddhist meditation, this path is onward leading towards freedom, towards nibbana, when the mind is no longer caught, released. And in this way, one can be of benefit, you know, this is not only to ourselves, but to others in this world, and to be a source of support, clarity, generosity, compassion, and warmth for others in our lives. So thanks for listening to this, to the talk. And if you have the time for another 10 minutes or so, I just wanted to guide a meditation and kind of work with these hindrances and these awakening factors in meditation. So just sitting wherever you are right now. No need to assume any kind of fancy posture, but just one that is upright and relaxed. So for this uprightness, just taking a moment to settle the awareness on the contact points with the ground or cushion beneath you and on the lower back. Just giving that lower back a sense of support. This can allow the shoulders to begin to relax down the back. With the support of the lower back, the rest of the upper body can relax around the spine. Closing your eyes if it's comfortable, or just resting the eyes on the floor. And again, just allowing the breath to be natural in meditation. You can take a deep breath or two if that feels supportive. And softening through the face and the forehead. Letting the shoulders and arms soften and release with each out-breath. Moving the awareness through the torso, the chest and the stomach, all the while softening the body. And sensing down into the legs and your seat. And starting to just get a sense for the whole body breathing. Allowing this body to provide a stability for the mind. And beginning to notice if there's anything clouding the mind right now. And we'll just comb through to check. Is there any sense of craving? Any sense of desire for something to be different, or ill will? Not wanting any part of your experience to be there. Maybe a physical sensation, emotion, or mindset. And just bringing to mind that these states are impermanent. They change. They come and they go. And they're ultimately not satisfying. Allowing the breath and the body to provide the background support. And noticing if there's any restlessness right now. If the mind is in the past or the future, trying to organize or plan. And just invoking a sense of contentment right now. Not right now. It's okay to just sit here. Don't need the goals right now. And then sloth or torpor, these exhausted feeling of the mind, a tiredness or a sluggishness. If you're feeling that, you You can open the eyes, take a deep breath, and finally just setting any doubts aside for now. Just dedicating this time to sitting still and resting the mind and the heart and the body breathing. So this mindfulness, this awareness itself, just getting a sense for what your experience of that awareness is. Subjective experience of knowing, through which all the thoughts and emotions can flow through. It's open, receptive, and clear knowing of mindfulness. This is the thread that weaves through the awakening factors, the thread that leads this investigation, allowing hindrances to subside and giving the energy to sustain your meditation, to keep coming back. The mind gets lost and bring it back. This energy brings a continuity of practice. And when these hindrances subside, just feeling this very simple joy of being in the present moment. Simple, nothing special, and at the same time, quite beautiful. Not being caught feels good. And through this joy, a sense of ease, calm, and tranquility can set into the body and the mind. And this is leading to a concentrated mind. A mind which begins to stay in the present. A heart and a mind which is settled. Just on the simple sensations of the body breathing. And from this concentrated and settled mind, just noticing any sense of equanimity right now. this quality of mind which is not rocked by the thoughts, by the feelings, but is steady. So thank you for taking the time to sit and to listen and do a little meditation practice. And if any of this is of benefit to you, I encourage you to subscribe and come back again. Thanks.